Flood overlays can quietly kill projects. One wrong assumption about flood levels, hydraulic impact, or fill allowances, and suddenly your feasibility collapses.
JC's flood assessment and mitigation services are built to protect your capital before you commit. They model the real risk, they liaise with councils, they design mitigation strategies that actually get approved.
Don't guess your way through flood controls. If your site has any overlay, any mapping trigger, or any uncertainty, stress test it properly.
Visit jcengineers.com.au and review the flood assessment services page, because water doesn't negotiate, but smart engineering does.
Welcome back to another episode of So What Does That Mean? Today's episode is the $1 million mistake nobody sees coming.
There's a mistake that wipes out over $1 million in margin. It doesn't look dramatic. It doesn't look reckless. It doesn't look negligent. It looks like momentum. Looks like progress. Looks like a team moving quickly towards approval. And that's why it's dangerous, because nobody questions momentum.
And in development, momentum feels good. You've secured the site, you've engaged the architect, concepts are flowing, the DA is being prepared. It feels like success. So what's the mistake?
Rushing feasibility. Or more specifically, failing to stress test feasibility properly before committing to the project trajectory. Most $1 million mistakes are baked into projects before the slab is poured, often before DA is even lodged.
Let's put some numbers around this. Approximately 45% of project blowouts link back to early feasibility errors. Late-stage design changes increase costs by roughly 20 to 30%. Unexpected site conditions consistently rank in the top 3 causes of budget failures. And here's the uncomfortable truth. Most projects fail financially before construction has even begun.
Exactly. Because feasibility isn't just about whether something fits on the site. It's about whether it survives worst case scenarios. And most feasibilities are built on optimistic assumptions. And optimism, while well-intended, is not a strategy. Developers rush into DA because it feels productive. You can show investors drawings, you can show progress, you can say, we've lodged. But speed without stress testing is dangerous.
So what exactly should feasibility be answering?
Well, at an absolute minimum, you should know worst case soil class that you're going to get on your site.
Because that affects what?
Well, soil class gives you everything. If you are on a extremely reactive soil bed or a highly reactive soil bed, you're going to have a significantly higher or more diverse foundation system to be able to create stability on your site.
Which costs more.
Okay. It costs more in terms of dollars of people on site, in terms of materials, and then also just being able to mitigate that risk. Flood overlays and hydraulic impacts.
We're seeing a lot of that at the moment, aren't we?
Yeah, and the flood overlays are not accurate. I'll just go and tell you right now, they're not accurate.
Yeah, councils are not. Their data is poor.
My greatest analogy that I tell them all the time is to go down to the beach and draw me a straight line to where the tide comes to every single day.
Yeah.
It just doesn't work like that. From their side of things, they have to group or categorize, where are the flood overlays going? Where's the flood likely to go, even though it's an assumption? Where do they think it's going to go? And they've got to draw that onto a picture, and a picture requires a straight line or a squiggly line and some sort of a grouping. Wind category is a big one. Bushfire attack level. Infrastructure upgrade triggers. Are they looking to upgrade any sort of infrastructure around the area, around your property, sometime in the future? council contribution obligations. If you don't know what your contributions are to council, then that's going to be a surprise for you.
What is a council contribution? Like, what is that?
Council contribution is a rate or a set figure that is mandated from council for the particular area or particular site for you to contribute to the services that are servicing that site.
Okay.
And it ranges and varies due to your particular conditions.
Okay.
Services augmentation, retaining and boundary conditions, access constraints, easement impacts. That's a big one. How many times has somebody looked at a property and they've come to us and they've said, I had no idea, but apparently there's a high voltage easement in my backyard. Feasibility should model the pain, not just the potential.
And most feasibilities don't go that deep, do they?
No. Most are spreadsheet driven. High level build rate per square meter, generic contingencies, optimistic timelines. But here's the problem. Generic inputs don't reflect site-specific risk. And site-specific risk is where margin disappears.
So let's make this practical. Give me an example of a momentum mistake.
Okay, developer assumes soil will be typical, but they've had no early geotech done. They've lodged the DA. Later, soil report comes back as a Class P. For those who don't know, a Class P is a problematic site. It becomes problematic by definition of the Australian standards when you cannot simply classify it into any of the other soil classifications. And it's generally because there's abnormal moisture content, there's some excessive vegetation around the area, there's some fill or some previous works that has been complete and nobody knows whether that's been complete properly or not. So it's a problematic site and you have to design something specific to those conditions that doesn't get categorized. So suddenly footings increase, slab system changes, retaining designs increase, excavation costs start to jump up. That one assumption can shift hundreds of thousands. And that's just the soil.
So this is where it gets dangerous because rarely it's one assumption, it's multiple.
Exactly. Soil just gets you out of the ground. Okay. Small assumption number one, soil will be typical. Number two, the wind rating standard. Number three, your flood levels won't be triggered and they won't trigger design changes. Number four, council won't condition any road upgrades, for example. Number five, infrastructure capacity is okay. Your wastewater pipe or your water pressure, your water main, or even your electrical side of things and your services that come to your property, their capacities need to be assessed. So you're assuming that it's all going to be okay. Individually, they all seem minor, but together they compound, and compounding destroys your margin.
Can you explain the infrastructure one a little more?
Yeah, council conditions an upgrade. So road widening or drainage improvement or intersection treatment, which, they're well entitled to do so. They might have an upgrade coming up or planned on their side of things. And they might say, well, because you're deciding to develop your property to be able to ensure that it complies with the relevant standards and the relevant requirements for the governing area, we want you to upgrade the road here to make it safe. And suddenly, there's a $400,000 condition. $400,000 for simply just wanting to go ahead with the development. Was it visible early? Yes. If someone stress tested overlays and planning controls, but momentum skipped the deep dive.
Okay. So what about another example of, like, for example, wind category is another silent killer?
Yeah, absolutely. If you're on an exposed site and the wind category increases, then all of a sudden your structural steel increases, your tie-down system increases, it becomes non-standard, and you've got to design something to be able to negate the negative pressures or the lift pressures that may come into play. Your cladding specifications change, and they're not minor tweaks. That's systemic cost increase, and it was predictable.
Okay. So why do people skip stress testing? Like why do smart developers still skip this step?
Well, I think 3 reasons. Optimism bias, we'll deal with that later.
Mm,
Capital pressure, holding costs drive urgency,
okay.
or competitive pressure. If we move slower, we lose opportunity. But here's the irony. Rushed feasibility doesn't create speed, it creates rework, and rework is slow. The best developers we see operate differently. They bring engineering in early. They commission preliminary geotech investigations. They review overlays properly or get someone to review the overlays for them properly. They model the worst case wind and soil conditions for the site. They confirm the infrastructure triggers. What is currently there, what do we need to assume is going to happen in the future, and what do we know is going to happen in the future by reviewing council's plan. They build realistic contingencies and make sure that there is contingencies and risk built into their feasibilities. They pressure test their yield assumptions. They don't chase the fast approval, they protect their capital.
So the smartest operators are not always the fastest?
Yeah, correct. They are the most disciplined. They understand that protecting downside is more important than accelerating upside. They ask, what breaks this deal? Before asking, how quickly can we launch it?
Okay, so give our listeners something actionable. What should they ask before lodging their DAs?
Yeah, ask, what is the worst case soil scenario for this site? What overlays apply and what do they trigger? What infrastructure upgrades could be conditioned for this site from council, other stakeholders or asset owners that may come into play? What is the wind exposure classification? And what does it actually mean? What hidden retaining is required? What services upgrades are likely? And when are they going to occur? What is our real contingency percentage? Not generic, but site adjust. If you can't answer those clearly, you're just gambling.
Best projects don't move fastest. They move smartest. They move with clarity. They move with discipline.
The $1 million mistake is not a dramatic collapse. It's not corruption. It's not recklessness. It's unchecked optimism. It's false momentum. It's rushing before understanding. And most of the time, the damage is locked in before the first machine hits site. So if you're about to lodge your DA, pause. Stress test it. Challenge your assumptions. Protect your margin. Protect your investors. Protect your capital.
If this episode made you reconsider rushing your next project, share it with your business partner, send it to your development manager. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube, follow us on Spotify, and connect with us across LinkedIn and Instagram, because practical construction insight protects real money.
Smart projects don't happen by accident. They happen by design. We'll see you next time.